Okay, so listen up, chat. Transitions are genuinely one of my favorite things to talk about. And no, seriously, I mean that. I could bring this up at 2 a.m. and still have stuff to say. And I feel like if you're here, you definitely get that feeling a lot too. So let's talk about them properly. Now, I think a lot of us start the same way with transitions. You see something in an AMV that gets you hype, and then you go, damn, what effect was that? So then you find a tutorial, you copy it, and it looks made. And on top of that, it doesn't feel like the one you just saw. And you honestly can't figure out why for the life of you. And honestly, I was stuck in this same loop for way longer than I would like to admit. It's embarrassing. And what got me out of that loop wasn't just finding better tutorials. I started to ask different questions. Why does this one feel so smooth? That question is today's video and tutorial. We're starting off by yapping about 4 transitions today and the thinking and psychology behind each one. Alright, let's just get into it. Alright, so hyper slides first. And I genuinely think this one is very cool. There's something about the way it feels, and when it's done right, I don't think you can ever get tired of seeing it. If you know, you know. Now that feeling comes from 5 specific things happening on the same frame at the same time. So I want to walk through all 5 of them today because I think if we're being honest, a lot of hyper slides are only doing 1 or 2 of them. Right, so firstly, it's speed and velocity. Both clips moving in the same direction at the same speed. Clip 1 exits the frame so that clip 2 enters from the opposite side. The same axis, the same velocity, and the direction isn't arbitrary. It's supposed to come directly from the outgoing clip. Whatever direction the momentum in that clip is already moving, the slide should feel like a natural extension of what was happening. Element number 2 is duration. How long the slide actually runs. And this is the thing I spend the most time figuring out because there's no single right answer. The duration is determined by the weight and moment of the music. Now, if it's a heavy impact moment, a bass drop, a hard hit, something that needs to land fast, you could run it back about 8 frames. I think that's fast enough that your eye actually registers the movement without fully processing what's happening, which is exactly what impact feels like. Okay, now for mid-tempo sections, emotional builds, something that needs a little more space and time, 10 to 12 frames would be enough. And honestly, I think that's enough time for the movement to feel intentional and less like a psychedelic trip. And if you're not sure where to start, just go 5 frames forward every time. So you cut your clips 5 frames and then play it back until you have it right. Watch it over, and if it feels rushed or sluggish, just adjust 1 frame at a time until it sits right with you. The thing is, the more of these you build, the less time you'll take to think about it. Now the third element, easy. The slide needs to accelerate into the movement and decelerate out of it. Now how I do this is by setting 1 keyframe where I want the slide to start from, and also setting 1 keyframe where I want it to end, and then just using the value graph to ease it in. Then you can just do the same for the other clip at the end of the slide so it eases up as it's incoming into the frame. Fourth, secret tech, alright? So it's directional motion blur on all frames for the entire duration of the slide. And I just want to emphasize this because I used to make this mistake for way longer than I should have. I used to only blur the outgoing clip, and then the incoming clip would just appear on the other side of the slide with no blur on it, and it looked bugged. Element number 5, and this is one I'm going to spend a little more time on just because it opens up a rabbit hole that I think a lot of us didn't even know exists. And that is 1 framers. And it is exactly what it sounds like, just 1 single frame inserted at a strategic point in your edit that adds something to the surrounding frames before and after it. Okay, so in the context of a hyper slide, it's normally used at the crossover point, the exact frame where clip 1 and clip 2 overlap in the middle of the slide. Typically, the 1 framer is a creative liberation, and whatever you put on that frame is completely up to you, bro. And that's because there's really no wrong answer, because you really can't mess this up. Okay, so what I'd say is that you can experiment with it. Try out any effects that match your vibe and you can see what works. And that's the complete build. I usually don't do this transition a lot, but after finding my bearing, I low-key think this might be a consistent addition to my edits from now. Now I went through a phase of avoiding this one entirely because of how bad I sucked at it, and then I figured out what was actually wrong. My previous attempts made this transition look like a flashbang. The footage became background to the effect, and honestly that's backwards. The flare should feel like it was already living inside the scene, just like a light source in the clip that just got intense for one frame and it covered the entire scene. And that is the version of the transition we want. Now I need you to find a clip with a practical light source in the frame. You know, a window, an explosion, a beam of energy, you know, whatever. Pretty much anything that could plausibly produce a lens flare, a believable one. So position the flare on the actual coordinates of the light in the clip. So now you have the intensity curve build up over 3 to 4 frames. Have it go full white on the cut frame and fall off into the incoming clip over 2 frames. That white frame is your cover, and nobody sees the cut because you physically cannot see through full overexposure. Cut it into the next clip so the flare fades slowly. You need to track it if it's moving and let it sit still if it's not. I just think these are little details that make the two clips feel like they belong together, even if they're from completely different animes. Yeah, that's the version I use, and this is how I build my optical flare transitions. And low-key, I think if you build it this way, you'll see exactly why the other versions look worse. Linear wipe. I almost didn't put this one in the video because it might seem like a very generic transition. And I used to feel the same way. I had the same reaction for a long time. But then I actually started using it, and then I found myself reaching out for it because it's the most honest transition there is. It's just a wipe moving across the frame, but dynamic enough to make a real difference, and it could be done in so many different ways. Okay, but I'm only going to teach one particular way for now. The wipe direction can come from the footage. If a character is moving left to right, the wipe has to go left to right. And if the camera is panning up, the wipe has to pan up too. The wipe follows the momentum that's already happening, and that's what makes it feel like it belongs in the edit instead of just being imposed on it. Okay, first off, the feathering. I usually set this to about 300 to 350% of the frame width for the smoothest results. And now for the timing, this part is usually what I'm most particular about with my linear wipes. And I think it's the thing that makes the biggest difference. The wipe borrows its timing from the action in the clip. And when that sync is right, the wipe feels like a natural consequence of that. So now I keyframe where I want my wipe to start and where it should end. And because I want the wipe to match the direction of the incoming second clip, I'll keyframe the angle at the end of the first clip, move 1 frame forward and change the direction to match the incoming clip. Lastly, when that's all said and done, I'll ease the transition graph to make it as smooth as possible. And that's my linear wipe. It's really that easy. Simple is fine when it's doing exactly what it needs to. No need to overcomplicate things. Transition 4, the match cut. Okay, now this one I could make an entirely separate video about and still feel like I left stuff out. I get genuinely excited in a way that probably concerns the people around me. Anyways, when a match cut works, I mean actually works, I will sit and watch it on loop. Not just to study it, just because it's satisfying in a way that's hard to explain. Now here's what I want y'all to know about match cuts that I wish I knew earlier. You don't really build them in After Effects. You find the match cuts before you launch the software. It's a pre-editing skill, and it's about how you watch footage when you're pulling your clips. But first, to make a smooth match cut, you need to actually start asking, what does this shot rhyme with? Because that visual rhyme is essentially what a match cut is. The timeline is just connecting the two things you already found, and I will be sharing 2 methods on how to achieve them. Okay, in AE, find the frame in clip 1 where the connecting element is the clearest. That's your cut point. Then find the frame in clip 2 where the matching element is the same position, same angle, and the same relative size. You need to cut there, then drag a new cut into the timeline and cut every 2 to 3 frames in between the cuts. To make it more visually stunning, you could add some 1-framers, or sometimes what I like to do is pre-compose all the match cut layers and add a radial blur or spiral blur effect on them. Now for the second method, you need to open your browser and type in Paper Animator. Then click the first search result that pops up. Once it's loaded, you can hover over and click the text match cut option in the sidebar. Then type in whatever word you want to generate and hit the create button. You need to give it a moment and you'll have your match cut as soon as the render is done. Now for those of you who are feeling more experimental, there are a bunch of options to try out on the side customization bar, including chromatic aberration, text highlights, and even the dark theme of your match cuts. You can also change the AI version model for match cutting on this website. And yeah, this is how I do my match cuts, and this is how it turned out. Now, what I think I love most about all these effects is that they're simple but can be used in so many different ways. There is so many techniques and so many ways they could be applied, and your imagination is the only thing that limits you from doing that. Anyways, I'll keep making videos like this, and these are the stuff I actually think about when I'm sitting at my desk at whatever time of day it is. If you want to hear more of me yapping and more of this, subscribe please. And drop your opinions in the comment. I want to see where you all are at. Also, don't be afraid to check out my curated playlist in the end of this video and in the description. Anyways, see ya.